Welcome to the Nourish and Restore podcast with Nina and me, Nicole, where we bring all things nourishing and restorative to you, your body, mind, and soul. A chance for you to enjoy simple tools to help you live a happier, healthier, and more peaceful life. Join our conversation as we explore our interesting theme for today. Hello, 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 everybody.
Hi, Nicole. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And you? I have my sick little kitty here with me with her beautiful flower head.
Look at that. I love the pink flowers. So sweet.
That's sweet. It's the only thing that keeps her from scratching her sore.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Sometimes we do have to do the hard things to help us or others along here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. How are things looking your side?
So. To be completely honest and transparent, well, my first kind of like a day or two of my cycle. So you know how it is when that happens, kind of like the energy's a little heavier, a little more lethargic. You're kind of going in. So I've got my like hot water to sip on. I've got my hot water bottle with me. But we just transition and we just keep going. And what I love doing is, I had my morning walk this morning. I did my lovely oil massage, which is so nourishing and nurturing. And then being able to be in conversation is always so uplifting. So I'm so happy to be here chatting with you again. And yeah.
Stunning. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear all the exciting things that you have to share with us today. Today, of course, we're going to be interviewing Nina Saacks about all that she's been up to. And yeah, I really look forward to this conversation.
Oh, thanks, Nicole. Yeah. So maybe what I kind of like start with is my whole yoga journey, because with Nourish and Restore, we're all into everything that is nourishing and restorative to our bodies, our minds, and our souls. And I kind of started my journey with going to yoga classes with my parents while I was still studying at UCT. And I absolutely loved the yoga, mainly because it was something that was improving my basketball game and I was able to play so much better. Anyway, so participating in yoga classes while I was studying, I then did a yoga teacher training course, and not because I wanted to, teach yoga. I literally was just so enthusiastic about finding more about yoga. I wanted to learn more than what we were doing in classes. And my teacher had said, well, the best thing to do is a yoga teacher training course. So went ahead and did that. I was going to go be a marketing exec in, some big ass company. I was definitely not going down the yoga route. Anyway, one thing led to the other. Started teaching yoga then from my yoga teacher then said, oh, please, can you, teach a class for us at the studio? So I started. Then my mom and me opened a little home studio at home and we started teaching from there. And then the yoga kind of just snowballed. I went traveling for a while. Then when I came back, I started Yoga Awakening Africa, the yoga magazine. And it was a way that I wanted to learn more about all the different styles of yoga. I wanted to see what else was out there. And I thought it was a fantastic way to get information and to do something. Needless to say, I didn't really know much about the publishing industry at that stage. Plus, it was all under like a downward spiral. So it lasted for 4 years or so. And then I changed the brand Yoga Awakening Africa into a blog page. The beautiful thing from when it was a magazine is kind of like when we met. And I met so many amazing people who were all on this yoga path together, maybe in slightly different directions, but everyone was doing some form of yoga. And that's when we kind of like started our retreats. I started going to more workshops and trainings and courses, started giving trainings, started giving courses, started listening to yoga podcasts. It was kind of like that time of like absorbing yoga. And then kind of the magazine stopped in a sense, and I turned it into a blog. And then I joined forces with 3 yoga therapists and Ayurvedic practitioners to start up a yoga teacher training academy called the Academy of Yoga and Ayurveda. And that is still going today, where we train teachers to become yoga teachers. And pretty much from there, as we got the course curriculum together over the years, tweaking it here and there, I'd always had a desire to go a little bit further, to do a little bit more. And I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know if I wanted to go into yoga therapy, if I wanted to go study Ayurveda. I mean, both of those would have been like a good 4-year commitment. And if I do something, I want to do it right. So that, the plan was then to go to India and study there for 4 years. And it was an intense course. I went there, I'd kind of checked out what was available. And when something just doesn't, like, it's kind of there, but it just doesn't resonate heart and mind together. It's like the mind was there, it was all perfect on paper, but it just in my heart, it wasn't there. So like, I was still listening to podcasts, and I'd always had this passion of business. I mean, I'd studied business, I'd loved it. I never went into it. And in yoga, we were always kind of like, things will happen when they happen. Money will come to you when it comes to you. But somehow I always felt like the business and the yoga somehow had to merge. And no one was talking about it at that time, until I came across kind of Kate Stillman, and she was very vocal as to like, why are yoga teachers not earning like market related income to other people? And she really got me thinking. And I was following her for about 8 years before I decided to invest in myself further, to do a deeper training where I could connect the business and the yoga into a program. And that's where I'm now at with the yoga health coaching, where I've created my signature program. It's a year-long program where we're in community together, and we're using yoga, Ayurveda, and habit change to take ourselves to the next level. Because yoga can take us so far. I mean, you experience the same thing, Nicole, where at some point there's something else. We know there's something else, and we need to find what is right for us. So that is pretty much what I'm birthing into existence at the moment.
Sounds amazing. It sounds amazing. So tell us, what is this program about? What does it entail?
Yeah. So like I was saying, it is a year-long course. So we are together in a group for a year. And the idea is literally, it's called shifting from chaos to rhythm. And the idea is that there is so much chaos and busyness around us. And there's nothing wrong with chaos. I mean, that is nature's way of operating. But when we can find means and ways to structure that chaos, we can then learn how to live in rhythm with the universe. We can accept and live with the rhythms and the cycles of our life, of the seasons, of nature, the daily circadian rhythms. And when we learn the 10 basic habits of Ayurveda, which are really, really easy, and everyone can do that, plus habit evolution, and how to implement that in our life on a daily basis, then we're just going with the flow of a river. We not constantly feel like we're fighting against the natural flow of life. Like, we're not trying to swim upstream. We can actually just go with it, and things just flow and happen with ease. And when that's happening in our lives, it is such an amazing feeling.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's natural for us to go through our ups and downs, and I think, as you say, it just becomes easier, and it becomes manageable, and it becomes more uplifting in a way. So tell me, a year, sometimes, when people hear this course is for a year, they get a little bit, I don't know if I want to commit to that. It sounds a little bit long.
How would you sell that to people?
I love it because, that was the thing as well. Often we all just want like this quick fix. We want a solution right now. Like, I've got period pains. I want to take a tablet and I want to feel better. And, if we want true health and true healing, we need to give ourselves time. Often it's taken us time to create a certain dis-ease or an unhealthy cycle in our lives. And a year gives us a chance to navigate all the seasons. We can go through, like you're saying, all the ups and all the downs, because sometimes if we do like maybe a 10-week program, you might be in a really good frame of mind during those 10 weeks and learning and implementing and doing really well. And then maybe a week or two after the course, shit hits the fan, so to say, and, maybe you get sick, maybe someone in your family gets sick, maybe, the kids are needing this, maybe there's a death, maybe you're needing to move, stuff happens. And if we're not actually in a program when the shit hits the fan, we don't actually know how to use the skills we're learning in those tough times. Whereas if we're in a program, when we're going through our highs and our lows, we can just really start to implement them so much more so that it actually becomes a lifestyle. And often, we always say, oh, I'll do it when I have time, or I'll, go on a weight loss program, when I have the money or I have the space. And as you know, or like I'm going to get pregnant when, I'm not this.
The time is right.
When the time is right. And we all know that the time is never right, in a sense, the right time is now and when you are ready to mentally commit to something. It just, it gives us the opportunity when some of us, or some people did like a yoga teacher training course that was for a month. Our teacher training course is for a year. And when we together in a group for a year, you really form such strong, or we see it with our students, they form such strong friendships over that year. They support each other through the ups and the downs. And that's exactly what happens with this group, where we shift from chaos to rhythm, is that such good friendships and the support structure and network is formed. And what actually happens is the 10 habits that we use, we cycle those through those 3 times a year. So first of all, you can kind of like learn the 10 habits. Then you start to play with them and you start to implement them and try to incorporate them in your life. And then the 3rd time is where you actually start living the habits and they become part of who you are. And it sounds a bit strange to do like the same thing over and over again, but it's like you just go deeper and deeper into it. It's like a yoga posture. The first time you do Uttanasana, your forward bend, you kind of like get down to your knees and you think, oh my goodness, you've seen the pictures where people have their hands flat on the ground and you're like, I will never get there. But you kind of keep going back to yoga classes, doing the posture over and over again, and you kind of get better and better. And some days are worse and some days are better. And it's the same kind of like with the habits, some days are good, some days are bad, but we keep at it, because the more we keep at it, eventually we get there.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important as well, because obviously the year, the cycle of the year, the seasons of the year, and to be able to really learn how to implement these 10 habits. And talking about the 10 habits, what are these 10 habits?
The 10 habits are super easy. And they're not complicated and they're not a secret, by any stretch of imagination. So the 10 habits are, the first one is an earlier, lighter dinner. The second one is early to bed. I mean, these are all normal and make so much sense. Then it's kind of like starting your day right with hydrating and eliminating. Breath body practice, where you're getting the prana into your being. Plant-based diet, and it doesn't necessarily mean like vegetarian or vegan or anything like that, but it's just drawing more plants into your diet. Sorry, I'm going to just close this window for a second while the car arrives. Then it's about taking time to do self-massage, which I was chatting about before, as the importance and the beauty of self-massage. It's about sitting in silence. So, for some people that's meditation. For others, it's just working more with concentration. We also chat about healthier eating guidelines and the idea of figuring out what your dosha is and what healthy eating guidelines look for you. It might be intermittent fasting. It might be more like rhythmic eating. It might be reducing the amount of snacking that you do. Then the big one is sense organ self-care, where we take cognizance of our five senses, because we're so active with the senses. It's where all the stimuli come in, and how can we protect them in today's day and age where, with all this over sensory stimulation, we can actually bring a bit of calmness. And then the last one, which is my favorite, is easeful living. Like, how can we just live life that is easeful? So like I was saying, they're not complicated, they're not difficult, but to make sure that we kind of implement them every day, that's where the challenge comes in.
Exactly. That's my next question, because they do sound so easy, and like you could just implement them yourself. So why would people need a coach for that? Why would you recommend them to do your course?
So I'll give you my story on this. So I heard about the habits, I'm probably going to say maybe 8 years ago. And I was like, oh, those are really easy, I'm going to do them. And I started changing my dinners from like having this heavy dinner, which we were grown up doing, to like having a lunch, a bigger lunch, and started moving in the mornings. I even bought Kate's book called Body Thrive, and I was like, read that and, was trying to do it. And I thought I was doing quite good. And then when I signed up to do her course, you automatically, with the yoga health coach training, which is kind of like the business side, you automatically get pushed into doing the Body Thrive habits, so that you learn how to teach them and coach them. And that's when I realized, holy smoke, you think you're doing them, Nina, but you're actually, honestly, truthfully, not actually doing it, every day. And also there's like a level further that you can take yourself. Like, when you're just kind of glossing over something and it's kind of there. And when I committed, I was like, oh, now I can actually, there's someone who I'm accountable to, number one. I'm hearing about different people's stories and how they're able to, work their meditation deeper, how they're able to build on their practice. And that's, I think, what I loved about the coaching and being in a group, in a dynamic group where everyone came from like a different background and had input. And it was a safe space for me to be vulnerable, number one, and to see where I was lacking and where I was doing really, really well. So being in this dynamic group really led me to trying things that I definitely normally wouldn't have done by myself. So yeah.
Dynamic group. What is that? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I suppose it's like, Nicole, when we all did like our teachers training, we were all in a group doing yoga together, wanting to get from like A to B. So we had like a similar goal. We were all in a group together wanting to get to that point. It's like, people who are in a book club together or like a volleyball team together. They're all moving. They're all joining because they have a similar interest and they want to get to a specific goal. And the idea of a dynamic group is the fact that it's a nice safe space where we're able to reach into the group when we're struggling. We're able to give support when we've got support. We're able to put our growth first so that we really committed to the group. And in a sense, with everyone who's in the group, we're all growing together. So if there's an interest that all of us have, like at the moment in our group, there's a big interest on menstruation, and funny enough, menopause. So kind of the chat and the talk is moving more in that direction. So it's kind of like real time. Where the interest is real time, that is kind of how the group is shifting. We still stick with the 10 habits, but we adapt it to the group's need. And the group that comes together always seem to have like similar needs and similar interests. And even if they didn't know it before they started, it was maybe something that was underlying that needed to arise. So I'm just trying to think. Yeah, it just helps us on our healing journey, I suppose.
Yeah, and I suppose also it doesn't make you feel so alone with what you're going through, you know? And
exactly.
Perhaps also sometimes you enter into something not really knowing you know, what the root cause is, and perhaps by being in this dynamic group you're able to maybe dive into it a little bit deeper, or see it from a different point of view, and then really see, oh my gosh, you know, that's really what has been causing me to feel this way. Or sounds great. It sounds really, really interesting. So can anybody join the course, or does it have to be somebody that is really already in a health crisis? What type of people would be most suitable to join you?
So, you know, Nicole, I'm quite selective, to be honest, with regards to who can join my little group, because everyone needs to kind of be able to fit the groove. So number one, it has, people have to be willing and ready to take their health seriously, that they're going to want to commit to something, and they're going to want to have change. If someone is in a healing crisis, going through a tough time, they're obviously, or been there for a long time, they've obviously been doing things for a long time that have not worked. And they need to be willing to realize that to shift, something's going to have to change. And the basis of the work that we do are the 10 habits. So they're going to have to be willing to change them. It's not like they have to implement them and do them 100% from the get-go, because that's not where we're at, and that's not what we're about. But to have that mindset that, okay, I'm taking my health seriously, I'm taking wanting to have like impact and change in who I am and what I am, and I'm wanting to empower myself. So people who wanting change, who wanting to empower themselves, and not be reliant on others, that is definitely who the course is for. And the course really helps to curb things like chronic inflammation, which is so prevalent in today's society. Most of us have a level of inflammation. So we all need to be practicing these habits, no matter if you're doing it in a group like with me or by oneself. But when we're doing the habits, we're in rhythm, and in rhythm with nature, in rhythm with the cycles. And that is, I suppose, what it's all about. I could go on and on and on, because I just love the work.
Yeah, you can see it. And I think that's so important. You can really see that you're passionate about it, passionate about sharing. Chronic inflammation is a huge subject at the moment, the silent inflammation that a lot of us are keeping in our body. So let us, maybe for those that aren't familiar with chronic inflammation or silent inflammation, what is chronic inflammation?
So good question. So we kind of like have acute inflammation and chronic inflammation. And I know last week you were touching on acute inflammation, which is kind of like, I can't remember the example you used, but kind of like, if you trip or you hurt yourself, you sprain your ankle, that's like acute. Or if you do something to your shoulder by, moving something, or there's a time when it is acute, it's there for a reason, a purpose. We need to take a moment to acknowledge what has happened and give it some TLC. Chronic inflammation, and I love this quote from, and I'll just read it from a recent study that I came across. So chronic inflammation is also referred to as slow, long-term inflammation lasting for prolonged periods of several months to years. Generally, the extent and effects of chronic inflammation vary with the cause of the injury and the ability of the body to repair and overcome the damage. So in a sense, chronic inflammation is going to lead to things like strokes, obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, arthritis, allergies, fatigue. You know, if it's in the mental space, it leads to anxiety, depression. It can lead to gastrointestinal issues. I mean, the list goes on and on. I think when the study came out, there were like 22 like chronic illness, inflammation illnesses. Now I think we're over 120 labels at that. And what the study had showed is that 3 out of 5 people in their lifetime are going to die of chronic disease. So a disease that was caused by chronic inflammation. So what we're wanting to do ideally is curb chronic inflammation and bring that down so that we don't become one of those 3 in 5 who die of that.
That's really interesting. And the chronic inflammation really is actually, the word for me, chronic, sounds so intense. And it's something that possibly, you know, if you had to speak to somebody about it, they would think, oh, it's something that's so visible, you know, and so almost acute all the time, really. But actually it's a silent inflammation. You know, it really only comes up, for instance, with me, you know, like I had a silent inflammation in my uterus, and every time I had my menstrual cycle, that inflammation was being, you know, brought up to the surface, and it was chronic, and it was acute at the same time. So I think it's very important for our listeners to realize that as much as you might be having a chronic inflammation, you might not even know that you have an inflammation, and this is where the silent inflammation comes in. So it's super, super amazing, really interesting, and I think so needed by everybody. And you were touching on a anti-inflammatory lifestyle. Anti-inflammatory lifestyle. Yes, I know of taking anti-inflammatories. I know of curcumin being an anti-inflammatory, and natural herbs that one can use. What more can you tell us about an anti-inflammatory lifestyle? Sounds good.
So kind of like an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, for me, when I started these habits about a year ago, I thought I was super healthy. I didn't think I had that much inflammation. Yes, I had period cramps every month and sore back, but I just popped a pill and I just thought, it's just part of my lifestyle. Anyway, the more I started doing kind of research and the lessons I learned, I actually realized that my body was filled with a sense of inflammation. We do like tongue charts and analysis to see again, you know, how much toxicity there is within the body. And I realized that I was actually cruising for a bruising with what I'd been doing. So one thing was that, you know, we've got chronic inflammation in our bodies. For me, I realized I also had a lot of chronic inflammation in my mind, where I would be too busy with too many projects, because being Vata, we are so super creative, and there are always projects that have to get done because they're fantastic and the world needs them. And then we go into this overwhelm and overdrive and too much. And then that causes us a sense of, you know, not being able to complete the projects. Then we disappoint ourselves, and we go into depression because we're not able to complete. And, you know, it's this whole negative spiral going down again. And that causes inflammation as well. So what I needed to learn was actually to acknowledge all these fantastic projects that we're in. And I was only allowed to ever choose one at a time. One that was the most important. Not that I couldn't do the others at any point in time, but for that point in time, one that was important. And choosing that helped to kind of start working with, you know, that together with meditation, and obviously all the 10 habits that go with it to help in the physical way, you know, keeping an anti-inflammatory physical body. and then meditation with the mind, and just following easeful living. So not having to do everything all the time, realizing that, when we're in our menstruation, to pull back a little. We don't have to keep going and produce and do. And it's just having all this realization. And that's also why it takes a year, because if I would have just done the 10 habits for 3 months or whatever, I would have thought I was doing really well. But because I've been able to go through it for a year, I've allowed healing crises to arise, and I've allowed myself to go deep and to slowly allow those to heal, and to work with them. So yeah, it's I love the work that I do. I love the fact that we are in a group together supporting each other. And then, obviously I head it up, so I'm able to do one-on-one support every month with everyone as well. So that when a person has a particular issue that they want to address privately, we can address that. And sometimes it's got to do with a habit, sometimes it's got to do with work related, sometimes it's more energetic. Whatever arises, it's open floor for discussion. So yeah, that's pretty much me and what an anti-inflammatory lifestyle is. And it's, as much as it is about, eating healthy foods, it's not just a healthy diet. It's a healthy lifestyle. We can't just look at one part of our life. We can't just, clear out our bedroom closet and forget about the rest of the house that is in disarray and a clutter. We actually have to do the whole package, even the garage.
And the cellar, if you have one.
And the cellar,
and the attic. Cool. Very, very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Do you have a limit of people that come onto this course?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I take about 30 people a year. So it is limited to a few people. We grow kind of like with each group, but I only take on 30 a year. So it is a commitment. It is an investment. And I do need to know that people are ready and willing to take the plunge, because that's how I joined, my training. And I did it when I was ready, and I did it when I knew I could be fully committed. The time is never right, in a sense, like there's always stuff going on, but mentally I had to I had to set myself a goal that this was the day I was going to start. And no matter if things weren't in place by then, it didn't matter. That was going to be my hard start date. And I must say, I can't regret 1 minute of done that process.
Yeah. My next question was actually going to be, do you start this, is it one course per year, or do you what's the English word, Staffel? Do you stagger? Yes, do you start one course?
Wir können auch das Ganze in Deutsch.
Wir können auch in Deutsch machen. Super, vielleicht einmal.
Yeah.
Do you
so I have 3 start dates a year.
Okay.
So we usually start either in July, in November, and then in March. Yeah. So they're 3 start months.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. And then my last, but possibly most important question is, how do people find out more? Where do they sign up? How do they get in touch with you?
I think, like both of us, we're all over the internet. So a good place is always our Facebook page or our web page, the Nourish and Restore one, where people can get straight to us, or my personal one, which is Yoga Awakening Africa. If you Google that, I usually come up. Otherwise, it's yogaa.co.za. And what I've decided that for our listeners is that I am really, really happy to chat with any of our listeners. I'll schedule a free chat with them for about 20 minutes, where one, we'll chat about clarifying your health goals. The second one we'll do is we'll figure out your healing timeline, what is going to sound doable to you. And then we'll explore the habits that would possibly give you the biggest breakthrough. So again, no strings attached. I'm definitely not into like any pressured sales calls, anything like this, I have 3 spots a week available for these free chats. You can always get onto my calendar from the website, and I'm doing this because I want to help. And if we happen to be a great fit once we've chatted and it sounds like it could be interesting, then we can organize another chat to see if coming on the course is the right thing and when to possibly do that. But yeah,
absolutely.
Let's get clarity on health goals. Let's figure out a timeline, and let's see what the biggest breakthrough you can get. And yeah, we can have a quick 20-minute chat on those and get clarity for you.
Sounds amazing. And, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher shall appear. And I love that because, you know, we as empaths and with the work that we do, we have so much love and so much teaching to offer. And we can shower people with all of that. But, you know, if they're not ready to take it on, it's just not going to do what it can do. So I'm super excited for you. I'm sure you will be able to help a lot of people, which is really amazing and really uplifting and empowering and bettering people's lifestyle. So that's so awesome. Thank you so much, Nina. It's been such an amazing journey with you of just being able to watch you grow from one to the other. And, you know, I loved Yoga Awakening Africa. I love the magazine, and I really do miss our retreats. So I do really hope that, you know, we'll be able to plan one in the very near future. But until then, guys,
keep listening to our podcast.
Yes, listen to our podcast, and give Nina a shout if you have any questions. Just you know, contact her. And yeah, I hope you really enjoyed this informative interview, and we look forward to hearing from you guys, and we shall be bringing you more very, very soon.
Cool. Thanks for the lovely questions, my friend, and always good to connect, and with you obviously, and all our listeners. So looking forward to our next chat, a YouTube live next week.
Yes. Woohoo.
We'll give it a go.
We will. Cool.
Have a good one.
Bye for now. Ciao.
Thank you for listening to our Nourish and Restore podcast today. To find out more about Nourish and Restore, visit our website or Facebook page, nourishandrestore.yoga. For more information on working with me, Nina Saacks, visit www.yogaaa.co.za. And to work with my awesome friend Nicole, visit www.lov-me.com. Links will be in the show notes. We look forward to catching up with you next week. Namaste, and have a nourishing